98.1. It is time for Freshly Pressed 981, where we'll give you detailed analysis of our newspaper stories. Welcome. My name is Valentine Ohu.
I'm Ayo Mairo Ese. You're most welcome. Good morning.
Join us in welcoming Adenike Oyetunde. Welcome, Adenike.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning and welcome, Mr. C. How you doing, sir?
Good morning, Valentine. Good morning, Naya. Good morning, Adenike.
Ha ha ha.
All right, Lagos, this is how you can get involved in the conversation this morning. Simply send your message to WhatsApp. WhatsApp number is 0809 0981. On Twitter, we're at Smooth981FM. Kindly use the hashtag FreshlyPress981 so we can easily track your messages. And on YouTube, we're streaming live. YouTube, search for Smooth981 and you see that we're live. Okay, so let's go on to our first story here. Controversy as Buhari sacks Oshibajo's aides, according to the Guardian newspaper. A number of dailies picks up this story this morning, but we're taking this one from the Guardian. So the Vice President, Yemi Oshibajo, chaired the Federal Executive Council meeting yesterday on behalf of the President, who is in London on a private visit. Now, it did little to douse speculations and relationships between him and his principal have hit an all-time low. Everything that's happened so far has pointed to that. Oh, there's crisis. But this particular one, 35 out of 80 of his aides have been fired. Now, this story, as well as the stories we've tried to search, doesn't list the people who were fired. But please take us through the story.
Okay, so the public space was inundated with reports yesterday that indicated that 35 of the 80 aides assigned to the office of the Vice President had been relieved of their appointments.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the story doesn't say why they were relieved of their appointments, doesn't indicate their names as earlier suggested, and doesn't indicate what roles they were playing. Now, the story is full of insinuations, conspiracy theories.
Yes.
But the first thing to note, the presidency is one. The presidency consists of the office of the president and the office of the vice president. It is the president that appoints all the aides for the presidency, whether they're deployed to him or to the office of the vice president.
Yes.
Now, recently, some of the functions of the VP were moved to ministries.
Yes.
And in that light, the workload of the vice president has apparently reduced. It only follows logically that if that has happened, then some of these aides who we believe would have been performing some of those roles when those functions were under his office would have to go.
Yes.
Or be transferred to the ministry.
Which has been, in some reports, that's what they said, that they've been transferred, that some of them have been, redeployed to other ministries.
So, and we also need to be careful here. The president has the right to employ an aide. He also has the right to determine the aide's employment.
Mm-hmm.
And in this current situation, if we want to be honest with ourselves, 88 for the vice president is a bit excessive. For vice president.
Why do you think it's excessive?
Now, here's my take here. The vice president has very limited constitutional responsibilities.
All right.
Most of the work is domiciled with the president, who may then elect to do it himself or appoint ministers, as provided in the constitution.
Okay.
So, if the VP has very limited roles assigned to him by the constitution, and the president he works with assigns very little to him, why does he need 88?
All right. Okay. So I do 88 according to the report. But just to mention that whilst that's correct, but you also said earlier on that the presidency consists of both the president and the vice president. And usually, even for those aides that work with the vice president, their official title is special assistant to the president in the office of the vice president and so on. So if the president in the first term had given him a number of responsibilities, should we then be, because at the end of the day, the vice president is constitutionally responsible for the economy. So what has changed? What's the issue? Or maybe we shouldn't even speculate.
Let's work. Let's work for the
sorry.
vice president. Second term, he may be tired. He needs rest. Besides that, is the need to save costs. I mean, what would have happened if we didn't hear of this
It's-
high on fire?
Are we serious? A government that is saying that they are
Okay, let me just point point out that a number of the aids are paid by donor agencies. So
and some of these donor agencies are moving out of the country.
No, they're not. So their funding is still sustained. They haven't. No, wait, hold on. Let me just finish. Their funding is still sustained. They haven't pulled back funding. And then an argument was made that if it was a money issue, the president recently appointed 6 aides to the office of the first lady. If we're cutting costs, should we be appointing?
But just 6 and 80. If the balance is not, let's not. This is a lost for me. I just feel like this.
Well, it then calls into question one last thing.
Okay.
How many aides does the president?
Yes.
Thank you.
Food for thought.
Thank you very much. All right, let's move on to our next story.
Please, you just grappled that from the air.
Thank you for clarifying that, Valentine. All right, let's move on. Please, let's hear your thoughts on this particular story. Now, Punch has this newspaper. Punch has Fashola says Nigerian roads not that bad. And Adenike, I will come to you. So the Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, insisted that Nigerian roads were not that bad as often portrayed. He spoke after the Federal Executive Council meeting and saying that people talking about the positives of the road were mere hype. Is it just hype, or is this reality?
Well, reading through this particular piece, I remember that someone that had responded had mentioned something about Fashola just being economic with his words, and the reality is, very frankly, he knows that the state of the roads are bad. But the question to everyone who's listening is, in the last 2 years, how much longer has it taken you to commute, whether to work, to your place of business, and what has been the cause? Has it been the congestion of the road because of more cars, or has it been because of the bad roads? For me as a person, it has been bad roads. So Fashola said that one of the issues that they're having is that the issue of funding has become such a Herculean task to fixing the roads and completing road constructions or maintenance, as the case may be, especially when it concerns rain. That quite a number of places have high water table, and then this which makes construction in the rainy season difficult.
Yes.
And he also added that the ministry and contractors were waiting patiently for the rain to subside so that they could return to the sites. Quite a number of people reacted, and one was the president, the chairman of the Infrastructure Development Committee, Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, and he said very strongly that Nigerian roads are very bad. The Nigeria Employers Consultative Association Director General reasoned that the minister might not be applying the same roads as other Nigerians. And the Ogun State Chamber of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture also disagreed with the minister. So the question is, what road, who is agreeing with the minister that the Nigerian roads are not as bad as we have been reported? It got so bad that there's actually a hashtag pothole challenge. Go on social media and you enter under your wrapper or duvet and just see like what have we done? So I don't know what Mr. Fashola is saying. And what he made a cynical statement to the State House correspondent where he said, I'm sure that by stating this is going to make headlines. Of course it's going to make headlines. Of course we have to talk about it. Question is, why did you not tell us concretely what your plans are? Saying that funding challenges is what you're being faced with, or that the rainy season, there's global warming. We may never have dry season or harmattan season as we know it over a long period of time. It means that we have to find a way of constructing or maintaining our roads even when the rains are falling.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I think I'd love to hear from our listeners if you agree with the statement, because he seems to be the only one on that side saying that it's mere hype, roads are not as bad.
Must you report everything, is what he's saying, I guess. Taya from Yaba says, I'm happy that the presidency constitutes the president and the vice president, not chief of staff. Bonjour, everyone. Then he can wait for grapevine, he said. Ubama Chideze says, if I follow your logic that some VP's aids were removed because ministries under the VP were reduced to, so the aids need to be reduced too. Now, let me ask you, why did the vice president try to stall the move to sack his aides? We hear that some people think the powers were reduced because they think he might want to run for president. Conspiracy theories, but we don't entertain them on the show. Lulu here says the president has 52 aides. The vice president had more aides because of the number of responsibilities he'd been given by the president, which took some of those roles away from the president's desk. So it does make sense that vice president is no longer responsible for those tasks. The aides should be removed, should be reduced.
Thank you very much. Now I'll go to the next story, which is Malami reduces EFCC ICPC's powers, scraps asset recovery committees. So talking about reduction of powers, taking away powers, we have this headline story from the Punch newspaper. Mr. C, can you take us through the story, please?
Okay, so the AGF has issued a directive which is contained in the Federal Republic of Nigeria Official Gazette, Volume 106, number 160, and it's titled the Asset Tracing, Recovery and Management Regulation 2019. Now, what this regulation seeks to do is that it seeks to streamline the procedure for all non-conviction based forfeitures. Now, what I'd obtained previously was the various law enforcement agencies went about their business in a haphazard manner, and there were several reports for people alleging that their properties had been wrongly or illegally forfeited. And they were then compelled or constrained to approach the court of law to get those forfeiture orders set aside. Now, this is a step in the right direction, because the AGF is now saying that, look, I'm the chief law officer of the Federation. Every non-conviction based forfeiture, and I need to explain this.
Please do.
A non-conviction based forfeiture is a forfeiture that is made outside the ambit of a court.
Okay.
That is why non-conviction, a conviction is an order of the court.
Yeah.
So he's saying that going forward, if you need to make a forfeiture based on a non-conviction, send the details, send the file to my office. We will look at it. And we, being lawyers, rather than policemen and investigators, will then know the right steps to take to ensure that these reports of people whose properties are illegally forfeited stop. And he's given directives that this current regulation must be complied with. So we wait to see whether there'll be full compliance by respective agencies.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ada from Ikoyi says, good morning, guys. Ms. Ayo, please keep asking these good questions. Constitutional offices or unconstitutional ones alike in the government are overstaffed and underworked. Let's not speak of the multiple aides of the multiple wives of some offices. Yeah, Uncle Fashola, he started having diarrhea of the mouth. Our roads are good. He should continue. Even Third Mainland Bridge has potholes. He has too many aides, obviously. There's all Ada from
or maybe not enough aides to let him know the state of the road.
Bolu from Lagos says, I take it that Mr. Fashola moves around in a helicopter. The roads are beyond terrible. And also he says Uncle Fashola is sipping from a different cup. He does not need to see the roads. Every day online we see expressways that have craters in the middle. People are dying in his watch, under his watch. One day he said, monkey, go markets, monkey no come back. Mr. Fashola has become arrogant and cynical over the years and disappointed at his attitude. Thank you, Ozzy.
Maybe that's what working in the federal government does to you. It can be a very tough place. Yeah.
The roads in Abuja are good.
They are not that good.
Right.
Where he stays and where he
Okay,
goes,
let's move on. So we're still talking about roads, interestingly, or traffic situation, but this time back to Apapa. So this is an update on Apapa Traffic, and Vanguard, very interesting investigative report here, and they say why Mile 2 inward Apapa will remain congested. Now, they've reported that a number of things, and one of which is the high-level extortion experienced when naval personnel control the traffic at the Mile 2 inward Apapa end of the Apapa-Oshodi Expressway has returned in full swing.
You know, I was reading this. We all know that there's a form of, but there's a conspiracy actually, of some sort about blah blah blah. Why the roads, the trucks are still there, the roads and all of it. But to read this, you begin to ask yourself more questions. And one that I see that stands out to me is how much longer will the government ignore that they do not have an understanding that this is happening? Reading this and accepting that proxies of the security agencies actually have street urchins that collect money from these truck drivers, ranging from 10,000 to 20,000 per truck. And the story is that they make between 1.5 million naira and 3 million naira daily from truck drivers. It raises a lot of questions. It is so methodological because they even give them account numbers for them to send the money to. I'm sure they also do the transfer, go online, send this money, and these are the only trucks that they're allowed free passage or easier passage, as the case may be. But the fact that there are several checkpoints, and at every checkpoint, the story is that payments are being made at this checkpoint
Mm.
is what is even more worrying to me.
Mm.
So if the government has been feigning ignorance that, oh, there's just one,
Yes.
but there are several according to this Vanguard
Mhm.
report. So it means that the government knows what is happening.
So if they know what is happening, so except you're saying that they are complicit in terms of, so they
It's
know
not
that.
except they are completely and grossly this is what it is. And it reminds me of the trucks that are parked on the bridge and the what's the name of that bridge?
Eco Bridge, yeah.
It's I've listened to a security official
Mhm.
shared the story on radio, and for like 30 minutes I couldn't do a single thing. After he narrated the cabal system, without a doubt, it was clear that those that are behind are people that we know should actually clear these things. So if Vanguard is putting it speaks and it's a huge slap on the government. But the question is, does the government really care?
Oh, yeah, I was
No,
going to
no,
ask
they
her.
do, because the VP some months back had given an order that
No, the VP gave the order, and that's the reason why this story is really important, because nothing has been done since
Simple.
the order. Well, nothing tangible that we can see to relieve the stress of people has been done. Also, we have to ask, if this is going on, the government is, said to be aware of what's going on. Who then defends the citizens? Who
Nobody.
is standing for us? That's the
Stop
question.
deceiving ourselves.
All right, let's move on. So we have some comments. Sebastian says, "Good morning. No excuses for Mr. Fashola. Let him fix our roads." And then Dare says, "Please bear in mind that there are trunks A, B, and C roads. The federal government is only responsible for the trunk A roads, the interstate roads. Trunks B and C are under the jurisdiction of the state. So Mr. Fashola may be referring to the roads under his
Do
jurisdiction.
you want me to call out
This-
names?
The states have to take responsibility for the roads within their purviews. We often forget that we have a state government in Nigeria." Not exactly, Diary. Even if we looked at the federal roads, I was Valentine. Interesting. We were talking about Lagos Ibadan Expressway going
Yes.
towards Babcock side.
Oh,
How
exactly.
terrible the
Terrible the
roads are.
roads
Those
are.
are-
Ogumosho Express, that on
Yes.
Ogumosho is, and is that also in state?
It's a federal road.
Anyway, let's move on. Our next story, Mr. C, let's go through the story from Premuim Times. It reports that Nigerian senators passed tax bill that they've not read or seen. This tax bill, amongst other things that it hopes to look at, is to strategically adjust the fiscal laws of Nigeria to widen the revenue base. Finance bill is what it is. That was passed along with or submitted to the House along with the 2020, fiscal budget. The finance bill will raise the country's value-added tax (VAT) from 5% to 7.5%, and if approved, will also expand VAT exemption items. But we know that according to the statutes of the House, copies of the bills are meant to be presented or made available to the senators before they're asked to assent to it. But what is going on here? Why is there a rush?
Okay, so first of all, the headline is not only wrong, it's grossly incompetent. Now, what the headline says is Nigerian senators passed tax bill that they've not seen or read.
It hasn't been passed.
It has not been passed. There's a procedure to be followed, and I'm going to educate the listeners. So, the bill was read for the very first time in the Senate on Tuesday. Now, what happens at the first reading of the bill, the sponsor, whether it's a member of the House, upper or lower, or the representative of the government, merely presents the proposed bill, and the clerk of the House reads out the short title. That's it, done.
So why are they saying they didn't read it when
No,
they apparently did?
So,
In the context.
So, at the second reading, which is what happened on Wednesday yesterday, a debate is supposed to take place. Now, some of the senators were saying that how could they possibly debate a bill they hadn't seen?
Yes.
And for reasons best known to the Senate President, he overruled those comments. But I must state clearly, the bill has not been passed. Because even after the second reading, the bill then goes to the committee stage.
That reviews it.
Now, at the committee stage, the bill is sent to a specific committee for a more thorough examination.
Okay.
Now, this committee examines each provision of the proposed bill, and in most cases, conducts public hearings. That hasn't been done yet. So there's still an opportunity for members of the public, interested bodies, to make their representations and their views known on this proposed bill. Now, when that happens, they then report their findings back to the House. And at the third reading, the committee's presentation is presented to the House, and they vote on it.
Okay. How long do you think this will take?
We're looking at this we're looking at least, if they're being serious and there's a rigorous procedure, rigorous analysis of this proposed bill, we're looking at least a year, 6 months to a year.
I'm glad you're
Yes.
I mean you're fair in your judgment, because it's a bill that's more serious than we look at on face value, because it goes beyond just being a finance bill, or including, it covers all the areas that government plans to make revenue from, to widen the tax net. And so you now talk about businesses, what categories they fall into, how much should apply to what business or the other. Thank you, Mr. C, for your analysis. Let's move on to this next story, Adenike, from the Guardian newspaper. Senate under fire over fresh move against social media. Options of fines, 2-year jail term, 6 months. Take us through the story.
Okay, so the title of the bill is, and I quote, Protection from Internet Falsehood and Manipulations Bill 2019, and it's sponsored by Mohammed Sani Musa, representing Niger East and under the APC. It's necessary to state these things. Remember in 2016, there was also a bill of some of a similar nature, and I remember how there was an uproar and blah, 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 blah. In that particular one, Senator Balana Alao, yeah, that's his name,
Yes.
had talked about it. And there are two things that stood out. He talked about people who unlawfully use, publish, or cause to be published any petition, complaints not submitted by a duly sworn affidavit shall be deemed to have committed an offense, and upon conviction shall be liable to imprisonment for 6 months without the option of fine. Also, in that particular one, to any person who acts, uses, or causes to be used any petition or complaint not accompanied by duly sworn affidavit shall be deemed to have committed an offense, and upon conviction shall be liable to imprisonment for the term of 2 years or a fine of 200,000 naira or both. Now, this bill is seeking a 3-year jail term for anyone involved in what it calls the abuse of social media. And the question is, what constitutes an abuse of social media? Who defines what that abuse is about? Of course, a lot of people are not in support. And when I was reading, one person I was looking for was Benga. He responded. Benga Shenson is one person who has taken this internet law and the business, therefore, into a different level.
It'd be nice to hear know what his opinion was.
Exactly, and he said something. He said he urged the National Assembly not to pursue any repressive legislation that will serve Nigerians no good. Without a doubt, one of the tenets of democracy is freedom of speech, expression.
Yeah, but what constitutes abuse? Because we know there are a lot of defamatory statements that are made.
The reality about it is, in different crimes across the world, if you go and check their laws, nothing hinders them from telling people to put stuff out there. But you have the responsibility to determine and ensure that what you put out is not false, which is where the problem is. And we know that our problem here is, if we tell them to do that, the likelihood of them clamping down every single thing on social media is a big deal. Look at Mark Zuckerberg, for instance. Just 2 weeks ago, he was still in the US Senate and the proceedings. Why? Because his platform has, released to different companies information that has to do with individuals without their consent.
Yes, but that's because, not defending it, but of course, data is expensive, which is what they trade for the monies they make that they use to support their services. Because we already know that signing up to these social networks is free, but also what they market with or make business with is the big data they make available to them. But that's a different conversation.
Yes.
My essential question is, we know that when freedom is touched, even at the precipice of it, it feels it's a very sensitive thing for us, the masses who use it. First of all, what constitutes abuse on social media? Second of all, why do we need a sworn affidavit to be attached to such statements? Because why I'm asking these questions, Adenike, just 1 second.
Go ahead.
We live in a world where technology is advancing every day.
Yeah.
You know that you can, right now, there are softwares that exist as I'm speaking to you that can establish social media accounts that will be run by bots.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And when you have all these bots sending out false information or propaganda, you can cause a lot of damage.
Now, the question is, the platforms themselves, what measures have they set up in verifying information that it's your platform, which is one of the things that they're telling Zuckerberg.
Which are included in terms and conditions.
So the reality about it is, if people are on your platform and are spewing falsehoods, your responsibility as a platform provider is to do what? Shut down those things.
So shouldn't there be a direct collaboration between the federal government and those platforms, the Facebook and the likes? They don't
understand all of that, which makes it more interesting, which is why I'm going to what I want to say now.
Okay.
They said, defending the resuscitation of the bill, Musa, who is a first-time senator and heads the Committee on Senate Services, argued that Nigeria needs the legislation because it will protect its fragile unity. And my question to him is, how does this intend to protect our unity? As an individual, I know many stories that I will see on social media and say, have you guys confirmed the authenticity? Nobody is disputing that. Everybody is putting out
stuff. Just going back to what you said, so borrowing a leaf from the Americans, where they're dealing or targeting the owners and managers of these platforms rather than gagging the American citizen. Perhaps we should borrow a leaf
so
from
the attention shouldn't really be on the users,
In conclusion,
but the government should act as a regulator.
No conclusion.
Please, in conclusion, you know what? Social media is one platform that allows every single person an avenue to address and reach out to this politician.
That's right.
In my honest opinion, they are trying to stop it. And if I can go on social media and tag my senator to say, you have done rubbish, you have done this and that, he wants to stop me from doing that. And we must not allow that.
But it goes both ways. So if they're pointing fingers at us, 3 fingers are pointing back because they too have social media accounts.
They don't have.
All right, don't forget that we're the ones that elected the representatives, so we have power there. ICE says, I still maintain that building new roads won't alleviate the situation. Every truck pays money to Agberos, police, army, and even LASMA officials too. They don't even want the roads fixed. I'll send a video depicting the chaos, and on these roads, our communities are suffering. Even the local government chairman gets their cuts as well. Taya from Yaba says, this gag order initiative over social media is most pointless. Nigeria as a whole is having challenges, but social media, an invention not by us, being over legislated upon. All right, you still ask anyways.
Mr. C, Premuim Times reports said again, Sowore met bail conditions. Second time the SSS failed to release him. His lawyer said, Emmanuel Ogala, he complained, one of his lawyers actually said that by the time they presented the document that had the bail conditions met or satisfied the provisions of the court, that they said they're closed for the day. Your thoughts on this story, please?
Okay, so very quickly. Omoyole Sowore has finally met his bail conditions. Has finally perfected them in court. Satisfied that and has convinced himself that he has met the conditions that were stipulated.
But was it just himself? He satisfied the court too as well?
No, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
The conditions were imposed by the court, and the court is satisfied that he has met those conditions.
Awesome.
Now, his lawyers have subsequently proceeded to the DSS office, only to be told they're closed for the day. Nigerians will want to know what time this was. This was 4:30 p.m. Please.
What time do they close normally?
They claimed, well, the operative who spoke to them said they closed at 3:30.
Okay.
For me, this is neither here nor there. His lawyer should just simply return back this morning, present the documents from the court, and then let us see whether the DSS will not honor these documents.
All right. So it's too early to cry foul.
It's too early.
Thank you. Adenike,
Right?
our governor wants the Lagos State Governor, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, he wants us to change his prefix from His Excellency. You know, he's humbling himself.
Yes, because I have
Let's call him Mr. Governor. Yes, go on.
Most excellent is Jesus. That's what Sanwo-Olu has said. Just only God, the Almighty, the Creator, the Protector, is the most excellent.
Awesome.
No man can share His eternal qualities. And I'm quoting from his tweets.
Yeah.
Well, Sanwo-Olu has said that he would rather just no longer be referred to as His Excellency, but he wants to be called the Governor. And social media has gone out on it. Just check on Twitter. People have, different things and all of it. But I feel like it's just a distraction, to be very honest. On the day after Balogun Market was burnt, on a day where someone like me was waiting and still is waiting for a government that will be stern and say, you know what, we have to literally collapse all these buildings. These buildings have to go down. They all have to go down. Someone who is on social media saying, I don't want to be referred to as Your Excellency.
Because he says he wants to come down from that demigod status.
Mr. Governor.
Yes.
What happened to our roads? What has happened to drainages? What has happened to education? What has happened to the health care?
Does that question not sound better that you're saying Mr. Governor as a prefix?
It
Instead of His Excellency.
Semantics, and he's just trying. Him and his team are just trying to mess with us. For someone like me, I'm not distracted. We're staying the course. The Excellency, or if you even say we should call him Babajide, anything, just work. So
Brian says it's only in Nigeria I've seen people show more interest in titles than in discharging their duties. Please, Mr. Governor, fix our roads and make good health service available and accessible.
Besides, it has a nice ring to it.
I like it.
Mr. President, Mr. Governor.
We are the 21st century state.
Mr. Mrs.
That's why we will soon be submerged by water.
We won't be submerged by water.
Submerged by water. Adenike, thank you for coming through. She's at Adenike Oyetunde. She's not staying back for the grapevine. She changed her mind. Mr. C, thank you. Mr. C is at Mr. CEEEE on Twitter. Follow us at Smooth 981 FM. And next is the Grapevine 981 at 8:15.
The headlines.
Nice. Thank you so much. On time, great analysis, great conversation. Well done. We did it. I'm really glad. I didn't care. They say you're different.